Hi, I'm your host, Erica Polsinelli, and welcome to Evolve by Erica, the podcast, where we talk all things spirituality, ascension, health, wellness, and beyond. I'm so excited that you are here. Come on in. Hello, guys. Today we have such a special guest. Her name is Jess Krux. She is a personal chef, a yogi, multidimensional being, light being. We just met for the first time in real life today, and the energy was just magnetic. She's such a beautiful soul who shares so much about her experiences. She, at one time, went to an ashram, so she shares a lot about that experience, what has led her to the life that she's living now, the farm that she's created and built, and how it doesn't have to be so complicated to eat well and nourish our bodies in the way that it needs it. So we talked a lot about intuitive eating, how we can become a little bit more intuitive, because sometimes that sounds like a really hard concept to approach and to achieve and embody. But she shared a lot about that, a lot about her love and her passion for food and how we can bring that into our life and allow this to be more exciting and simple. So I hope you guys enjoy the episode today. We really talk about it all. So enjoy, and thank you for tuning in. I'm so excited you're here. From the moment we met just now, we're like touching, holding hands. I love it. I love it.
I literally was like, I almost had the same outfit on. It's really funny. But I was like, maybe that would be, now I didn't even know. Anyways.
It's funny, but I think these two colors complement each other too. They like go together. I love it.
Emerald.
I'm so excited you're here. I'm so excited we're connecting. I love everything we already started talking about, and we can't wait to go into it here and share it with the listener. So first, just introduce yourself. Sure. Tell us a little bit about you and whatever you're guided to.
Yeah. My name is Jess. I am certified in nutrition, and I'm a health chef. I feel intuitively pulled to help people kind of navigate their way in the kitchen. I say this often, but like my mantra is like, it doesn't have to be complicated to be effective. And I feel that's like very much a plug and play for life. Working with people typically in their own space, teaching them how to simplistically just like live, feel better, and really embody the medium of food and how you can do that through very simple practices. And I think that there's such like a crossover when it comes to, you know, your morning routine and how much water you're drinking and what you're putting on your plate and how you feel, and all these very simplistic rituals that sometimes are really hard to find in the busy lives that we lead. And being a mom or being a parent or being a wife or a girlfriend or all the things. But it's like, if you can kind of just really simplify these like pillars of like what make you feel good, right? Like, and I believe, and I find, and through my experience, that food has the ability to do that. Yeah. You know, and then it like opens up this just like beautiful sea of conversation of like, you know, when you're working with somebody one-on-one, whatever the modality is, whether it's food and cooking or meditation or working out and fitness, or you're their doctor, any profession, it's like, what do you like? What sparks you up? What makes you feel good? What brightens your day? What brings you joy? And like from there, like collecting all that information, you can like dial it in to like, okay, well then what kind of things make you feel good when you eat them or not, right? And that's what I do with my clients, and that's what I do over Zoom now, because we live in this new world a little bit. And I feel like there's just, for me, the teaching is this intuitive approach to eating. And it's not, and I feel like sometimes that can be really triggering, because not everybody knows what intuitive eating feels like, looks like, and is, because we're not taught that. Yeah. We're not taught like the innate wisdom of like our being. Like we're not, that muscle isn't exercised when we're being brought up, you know? And I hope that we can, as this new wave of humans, we can change that. Like I feel like this is the work to really change that. But it's interesting when you're like, you know, intuitive eating gets this bad rap, or it's like, what does that even mean? It means a lot. And it actually has this profound effect on your life if you can listen to what your body is telling you. Yeah. And it's like, and then the other practices kind of like come in and like fill these pieces. I almost see it like a gear, and it's like all these different like facets fill the gear of like, well, is that helping me clear my intuition of like what I'm going to eat today? Like what I'm putting on my plate tonight. Can I look at my plate and be like, is this serving me today? It doesn't have to be this like, oh my God, for the next 6 months. It's like literally day by day, like break it up day by day. Like you're doing great day by day, you know?
Yeah.
And I feel like it's like my approach to teaching and cooking and fueling the body is very much just this soft, gentle approach, the same way you would teach a child in a way.
So intuitive eating and intuitive everything
Right.
is really what my meditation practice has guided me to. And I understand what you mean by people not even knowing what that means, because we haven't been taught that unless we've been very fortunate enough to have a spiritual experience or activate that muscle within us. But everyone has the capability of it. It's just finding the way and the method. So how do you guide people through that? Like, I'm going to give you an example. My husband would say, like, it feels good for him to eat sugar. Like, he loves sugar. Does he like what it does to his body? No, but it feels good to some people. So how do you help them to see what truly is good for them and not just like that dopamine hit and that dopamine rush that we could get from some types of food?
Totally. So I mean, the chemical compound of sugar is what's causing that effect, right? So for me, and again, the teaching, it's like, it's almost like as you are a teacher, like there is more energy coming through that's like way beyond me, way beyond you. It's like, how do you like pull from the earth and give the information that potentially could be like life-changing for some people with diabetes who are eating sugar, who can't get off of it, people who are obesely overweight, who can't get off of the foods. It's like, okay, again, living in this simplistic view, Vinny, right?
Yeah.
Vinny, like, I want to try just an experiment with you. I want to give you, he's going to laugh, but that's fine. He's a really funny guy. I know that now. It's like, what does it feel like to eat a date covered in peanut butter, potentially drizzled or dripped or covered in like a dark, very low sugar, even like Lily's brand has like no sugar. Potentially there's other things in there that he may not want, but like, what does that feel like to eat? Does it give you the same effect as a sleeve of Oreos or whatever the option is that he
Oreos
wants?
is perfect. Yes.
Okay. So
loves that.
And I think, and again, like I never want to teach from a place of like food guilt.
Yeah.
Right. Cause like, that's not teaching anyone anything. And it's also, listen, some people can't afford other foods, and that's like what they're serving for dessert or for breakfast or like as the treat, as the birthday cake. So like, I never want to like, I want to be all inclusive here with like people and you know, there's like the education level too. It's like, hey, could I go buy some dates and like raw chocolate and melt it and like have an experiment and make this really fun, cute dish and throw some peanut butter in there and like make it like a protein snack? And like, in the experiment zone, you're like, wait, my body literally feels the exact same way. Your taste buds will change, right? It takes a very short amount of time for the taste buds to like be like, wait, I'm craving sugar. Sugar is sugar is sugar. So it's like your brain is being told it's eating sugar. Let's just call it a date because that's really simple. Like, wait, I'm getting the same hit. I'm getting the same, like this euphoric dopamine hit right now because my body is being reacted to sugar. It's the chemical reaction happening. So it'd be really interesting to see, and even for ourselves, I do it all the time. My body doesn't crave sweets anymore. I mean, and not in like I'm like, I've gotten over that. Like, no, it just, I don't even really want it. It's also like, I have such a relationship with my gut and like how I'm feeding that. Cause I've like, this is kind of how I came to be. I had some really big gut issues and like, as did so many people, and I feel like that story is like redundant now.
It's happening all over.
Yeah, so it's like that sugar thing. It's like really like for me, it's like through the lens of what is the alternative here? Because if we're not going to just eliminate, because elimination is very hard, because then there's like you go into the guilt mind, because you throw them away or you can't buy them. I think about my kids. I'm like, I'm never going to say you can't have that. It's just like potentially, right? But like there's a framework around it where you're like, let's try this instead. And of course you can have the cookie. It's not about the cookie. You know, it's just about like kind of like filling, again, this like metaphorical plate of like, can there be a bit more nutrition on it? And can there be another kind of way to go that can be a little bit more beneficial, not only to the body, but to the mind? You know? And I think when we start seeing it in this holistic view, then things get a little bit more like, that makes more sense.
Totally.
Right. Because when you're telling someone no, it's just like, no, go F yourself. I'm going to eat what I want.
And it's true about not just the body and the mind, because I don't think we realize how much of what we eat affects us. And my spiritual awakening occurred from changing my diet, going plant-based. It cracked me open, and that actually opened me up to the idea of meditation, because before that I was not on the frequency to 100%. Meditate. So I have chills now too. I've experienced that firsthand, but on the day-to-day, with people who haven't experienced something like that, and even for myself just day-to-day, because I'm not always thinking about that monumental shift that happened. But going back to what is it that makes me feel good and fuels that connectedness and connectedness to the earth, to my higher self, to that feeling of higher consciousness. And food has so much to do with it. And I feel like this is such a timely episode because there's been so much about what's in food, and I don't even want to go there, because I was like ready to go there on Instagram. I don't really go off on Instagram about current events, because if I did, I'd feel like I would be a news channel. There's always something to go off about. But I was so close the other week after like the chocolate study that happened with the lead in the chocolate and this orange juice brand. I never drink that orange juice, but thinking about the families in our country that do, because they think they're doing something healthy. And then there's obviously like not even real food in it, but chemicals and whatever else. And it's just like going back to finding our way back to nature in this really fast society, and going back to the source, which is hard. But I think we're getting these like little reminders through these stories and these news alerts to help bring us back to that.
Yeah. I mean, again, like another piece of like my whole, just like, again, mantra, it feels like when I teach, is like, do you know the source of the food? And again, not to throw shade or make anybody feel bad about packaging food. Of course we eat it. Of course it's convenient. Of course there's amazing brands doing great things. And then there's a lot of brands who aren't, because there isn't consciousness around it. It's a money-making business. They're not in the business to make us healthy. They're in the business to make us go to the doctors. So, you know, through that lens, you have to think about like, well, I could avoid it altogether in an absolute world, which is not feasible. I understand that. But in an absolute world, just for the sake of conversation here, like, what if I only ate food that was grown from the earth? Like, what if I went back to that like paleo, like kind of ish vibration of like, you know, beans and legumes and meats and potatoes and things like that, where they're just coming from the earth, and you're not, and again, I've said this many times, like with my friends and things like this, but it's like, then you create no trash. Like we built about almost 7-8 years ago, a farm to like to grow food for like a lot of reasons. But like, I see it now through a very different lens. I have food all year round for the most part. And in the summer, it is wildly abundant. Wow. And it's like, we sometimes don't even have to go to the grocery store to get, besides, you know, olive oil and rice and things like this. But like 80-90% of the food we're growing in our greenhouse, and it is a dream, and I feel so fortunate. But that's not to say that the teaching is to grow your own food, and it's not a hashtag to make someone feel shitty. It's like, literally, can we start teaching how to do gardens, or fire escape, like little gardens where you can just at least do your herbs, or so it's like, again, it's throwing less shade and hate on what they're doing, because what they're doing, yes, it's going to take a monumental change, but what we can do, what we actually have the power to do, no matter how much your income is or not, we can pick up seeds and we can plant them, literally and figuratively, right? Really? So there's like, but your whole to the source, I mean, that is like my whole thing. It's like, what is the source? And if you ask yourself, literally, like everything you're going to put in your body, and again, not in like a I'm going crazy way, just like in a very observative way. Like you go to the bakery, like, hey, where'd you guys get the wheat from? Like, ask them. I did this the other day, and she was like, I have no idea. I'm like, does it matter? I'm like, it doesn't matter. I'm just curious. You're saying it's organic. I'm wondering where it's from. You know, so when you start getting really curious, your body, I mean, you're signaling to like, I care.
Yeah.
And things start opening up. And then you read labels differently. You go to the grocery store a little bit differently. You kind of like approach food in this, again, more conscious way. And then for me, I believe that's how the ripple changes. That's how we change. That's how our kids change. That's how our friends start changing. That's how the world starts vibrating differently. But it all starts with the source.
What do you grow on your farm? I need to know. I need like a visual. I need to know the details.
We grow everything. So like, and again, we help, but like we have a beautiful farmhand who like grows and is an amazing permaculturist and a farmer. And I studied a lot, but I'm not like, I do it, but he's doing it. Anyways, okay, so just want to give credit where credit's due. We grow literally, baby, you go to the grocery store in the summertime, you can get everything from my greenhouse the same.
Wow.
Eggplant, carrots, beets, tomatoes, cucumbers, broccoli, sprouts, every culinary herb, water chest, like everything. We even because you can control the environment, which I think is also an interesting metaphor, like where you can control an environment and then like anything can grow. It's kind of like IVF in a way.
Very interesting.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So like, you know, you've got your heat, you've got your fresh air, you've got your water. We were growing citrus, which is, you don't grow citrus in upstate New York.
Yeah. We
were growing passion fruit, just like, it's beautiful. Beans.
Talk about abundance. Like that.
I know. And it's
the truest form and the most original form of abundance, like sprouting something from the earth that you can then not only eat to enjoy, but nourish your body, potentially heal your body.
Yeah, and create a relationship with the earth and create a relationship with the food. Far beyond, again, and it's like, it doesn't always have to be this like 0 to 100. It can be, I have people hit me up all the time being like, do you know anything about hoop houses or like small gardens or like anything, like what grows in this season, in this state, like all this stuff that's like, hey, I'm really interested. Like, I don't show a lot of my farm. I'm a little private when it comes to family and things like that, but like it is inspiring to others. And there have been people who've been like, oh my God, I just ordered this thing, like check it out. Like it's beautiful. It's like, again, tapping into that connection of like, oh wait, I want that. Yeah. And not in like an envious way, like, oh, I actually like want to create that, you know?
Yeah. I listened to a podcast. I believe it was an Almost 30 podcast. Okay. Have you ever listened to them? Course. With Dr. Will Cole?
Yeah, okay. I know him well. I mean, not personally.
I'm lying. It's not Dr. Will Cole. It is, oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank on his name.
Okay.
I have to write it in the notes because Zach Bush.
Yeah. Okay, he's great.
And he's was helping people who were really sick in Virginia. And he saw such a huge difference in their healing journey when the crops and the vegetables and the fruit were grown in their own garden versus buying them in a grocery store.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And like all of that life force energy, like straight from the source. Yeah, and you look so radiant. I'm like, you look like a person who eats her own fruits and vegetables.
Our farm, wait, hold on. You're gonna love this. Our farm is called Prana Farms.
Wow.
So yeah, life force fully. But I love you also. But yeah, no, it's incredible. And I mean, to that piece, there's so many layers of this, but it's like, as always, but you know, when you eat the apple that's grown out of like your land, it's like a very different DNA of the apple because of the soil that we're all like breathing, living, feeding. And so it's like very different if the apple came from California, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, obviously the nutrients are so much more dense and abundant because you literally just picked it off the tree. Yeah. There's no travel time. It's not losing anything. Mm-hmm. But someone asked me the other day, I was like, I think there's a romance when it comes to food. I think because I feel like I've always was in restaurants, working in restaurants in the front of the house, and then got very turned on by raw food and went through my own food journey and like had a juice bar, and then like that just like sent me running to nutrition school, and then realizing like, oh, this is it for me. This was like the portal. But like even just like the cutting of a tomato, like a juicy tomato, and it's just like properties is so fucking sexy and beautiful to me. And it's like, I feel like when you can just kind of like turn your awareness and like your frequency up a little bit when it comes to even the preparation of your meals. Again, not every day. We don't live in a place where we're just like abundant of time. And if you do, I praise you. But like, you know, there's just those moments, those micro moments where you can be like, thank you. Thank you, Earth.
I've always,
I love
it's
you.
so funny that you just called it tomato sexy, because I've posted before, like, look how sexy these vegetables are.
Insane.
Like,
I mean,
when
people,
you're on that frequency, like, and you just see your
yeah.
food as that. And I have to work more towards that again, because I've definitely been slacking on preparing my own food. It's hard, and I feel like I'm plant-based. I've been plant-based for 6 years, and as I shared before, it's what led to all of this, my life that I live now, just being very connected to my intuition and open to meditation. And more recently, I've been challenging myself and asking myself, because I think there is such a movement and importance around like not having a label and really intuitively listening to your body. And so I've been challenging myself a little more and asking myself, like, okay, is there anything else you need? And trying to lean into that. I haven't gone out yet. I did actually go out and buy eggs, pasture raised, non-GMO, organic. And I looked at them and I was like, I might eat you, but I never did. And I gave them to my husband. I'm like, you could eat them. I'm not ready yet. But I think that it's so important to have that time with your food, preparing your food. There's times I would play mantra and have like mantra infused food, and getting back to that is difficult. So would you have any tips? I know you do. So can you share some tips you would have for someone who is either lacking inspiration or feels like they don't have the time to mindfully prepare, cook, create? Like, what are some tips that you can give us?
Yeah, so I feel like there's 2 brackets of tips. Tips for me, like one bracket is efficiency, because if we're talking about the culture that is busy, and I think to speak to that, I think it's also a good reminder that we can slow down. Like if we don't have time to meal prep, it's like, well, where can I create time to do that? Because if I know my body is the most important thing, like if I don't take care of my body, where am I going to live? Like literally, like then like maybe we can start even just etching out some more time. So that's not a tip, it's just suggestion. But when it comes to efficiency in cooking, I always tell my clients, people that I work with, and like myself included, you know, like having things like a rice maker, like not a pressure cooker, like an actual rice maker where it takes like literally 12 minutes to cook rice. You do nothing, you turn it on, and it will turn off by itself, and it's amazing. So you've got that. I think other things like doing a haul, if it's possible. Again, I know I'm not speaking to everybody here because not everything is possible, but if it's possible to etch out 2 hours of time to do like one bigger haul where you can actually like put on music, grocery shop, put on a podcast, meditate for 45 minutes while you're in the grocery store, come home. And then again, I say this all the time, but like washing for me, not always, in a dream world would be meditation, where I'm like washing and viewing and giving like the gratitude to the vegetables and to the food, and not in like a silly way you're annoying, like an actually it's a real thing. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful practice, because not only like does it like spark like that gratitude feeling and like that like, whoa, I'm abundant right now, but it also is like beautiful and fun. And like when you do beautiful and fun stuff, you're like, I want more of that, right? And it's not like if you have a food budget, which we all do, it's like, okay, so can you etch out that one time instead of going to the grocery store like 6 different times a week, or stopping at the deli and paying 3x that you're supposed to? I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of New Yorkers listening. Like there's places that are so much more expensive than others. So it's like that one day a week, coming home, creating the meditation, creating the gratitude practice, putting things in Tupperware, buying Tupperware, or saving your glass jars. So you know that like even if you're just buying, say, call it 6 vegetables, you can wash, cut, put away. You've got your rice made for the week. And then from there, you can kind of mix and match. If you eat eggs, hard boiling eggs is a huge thing too. And kind of just doing this like, oh, I just got a lot done, and now I can like make meals for the week. Or the other thing too, and this is a little bit more time consuming, it may take some more inspiration, but like not really, because it's like when you have things like garlic and onion and like some really like high quality spices, not even like even just like some cumin and like garlic powder, onion powder, and like some seeds and things like this, like you can make a beautiful soup. right?
That is always my go-to.
It is. And it's like, it's pretty incredible how like even like zucchini and potatoes, call it leeks, maybe some chard, you know, cut it up like in some uniform way and like make it look really beautiful. And I think too, like we do eat with our eyes, and I say this all the time and it's like so redundant, but it's so true. Like we eat with our eyes, and it's like for me, it's like when you can visualize what you want your fridge to look like, or even like spark some inspiration by seeing something in a magazine or online. And again, not in a comparison, I feel crappy about myself way. That is not the goal. That is not the intention ever. You are wonderful the way you are. We all need to work harder on ourselves in whatever capacity, right? It's like just to feel inspired by like color, by brightness, by that like abundance in the refrigerator, by eating, you know, the packaged foods if you have them, but maybe calling it like 70% like stuff from the source, Mother Earth, right? And, you know, the other tip is always like buy something you've never had before. Buy 2 vegetables that you don't even know what the F they are and you've never cooked with them, and try that raw, see how you like it. Get a mandolin or use your knife skills, practice them, and chop it up and see what it looks like. Maybe you make a slaw. Maybe you braise some cabbage because you've never done that before, and you throw it over some yogurt and like a little cumin and some olive oil. You know, like for me, it's like it's not about these wild recipes. It's not about making the best like TikTok food video. It's about nourishing yourself and like asking yourself like, what do I like? And like, am I open to like trying new stuff? Because it doesn't take much to make something taste yummy, right? Like we need some heat, we need some fat, we need some salt. It's like you've got good olive oil and really good salt in an oven, like you've already fucking won. Like, no, it's true. It is right. True. So, and I think underneath all of that is like, damn, I gotta make more time for myself.
And I think it is so important. Like, this is our body, this is our home. Where would we live if we didn't have it? And everything comes from how we feel, really.
Totally.
Because when we're vibrating high and when we have a high frequency, we feel good, we're going to attract good, as simply stated as possible. And if we're feeling slower, if we're feeling lower, that's the experience we'll have as well. And food is, I think, a very direct route to how we feel.
I think we also need to be candid, because you, me, a lot of our friends, a lot of our community taps into how they feel. I think there is an abundance of people, and potentially the majority couldn't even answer that question if they tried. So if we're being super real, it's like, what does that question mean? What does it feel like to ask yourself in a moment of no phone, no technology, on a couch with some dim lighting and a candle, do you feel okay sitting with yourself for 30 minutes? A. B, what does it feel like? What do you feel like? Do you feel like you're energized, burn out, like you can't wait to get your phone, like you're attracted to do something else, like you can't even sit with yourself, right? So it's like, until we really think about what it is we feel, it's hard to be like, well, I know what I want. So and again, like back to the beginning of just like this, maybe it was actually on my ride over here, I'm like, there's just become so much static and noise, and like it's truly been my new year, just like where I want to be in myself and my alignment with myself and my family and my friends, like doing less. And even in my business, doing less is like, I'm so golden there. And like saying yes to things that really do make me feel good and light me up. A good dinner, a new chef, like I'm going to go see my friend's art in the gallery in Chelsea. Like that's the stuff that's going to make me more abundant. It will. Even if that means I didn't take a Zoom cooking class and a couple $100 later, like this is the stuff I need. And I think we all need more yumminess between the grooves right now. You know?
Absolutely. And we were talking about when you first got here that we're kind of like in this, not in between time, but this time where we all spent a lot of time at home by ourselves. And now we're very much like coming back together and connecting, and like we have that connection online that was definitely deepened during the pandemic. And with that, I feel like content and everything just sped up for creators as well. And the consumer, how much we're consuming, but now there's this balance of like getting out and actually having these in-person connections, communications. And
so
that
powerful.
is like it's funny, when you first came here, you're like, I keep getting this hit about connection and like coming together and being in person together. And I actually met up with someone right before this because it's been a promise I've made to myself. So I'm very much a hermit. I'm very comfortable at home. I live on Long Island by the beach. I've created what I feel is like my first sanctuary of my life in my home.
Beautiful.
I hope for more.
Oh, yeah.
But right now, that is like my first and only sanctuary. And it's within myself and in my home, and I'm very comfortable there. And I made a promise to myself this year to get out more, to connect with people more, because that is where we get inspired. That is where we learn. That's where we are challenged to really listen and hear from other people. And it's so important. And I just found it interesting that was one of the first things you said as you sat down, because that's how energy works.
I know.
Like that's how energy works.
Well, it's funny, like I just came off of this beautifully eclectic, wildly, robustly colorful trip to Mexico with a lot of amazing people. And a lot of them I didn't know like immediately. I knew like maybe half of them. And our friends put together this birthday party, and it was really, really, really special. And I think, again, as a mother, my kids are now almost 2 and 4, like it takes a while to come out of that cocoon where you're like, you know, you wear these different veils. You're a different human being after you've had children, 1, 2, 10, however many. And, you know, you kind of, for me at least, and I think a lot of mothers alike, you're like, I miss that part of who I was, especially if you kind of had this adventurous soul, which I 100% did. And, you know, there's moments where you feel okay leaving the coop, the nest, and you're just like, okay, like it's time, and like I need to just like release control. And that's kind of been my other mantra. Like I'd like to have downloaded that so many times, like just release control, let go, and everything will be fine. And if it's not fine, you work it out. But going on this trip was just such a reminder of strangers being in the same vibrant bubble of life and community, and having these conversations with people that you've never met before, but where you can just be like-minded and feel inspired and hear what they're doing, and not in a contrast or comparing, or I'm better than you, just as like human beings. And connecting as human beings, because that connection is so direly important. And we did lose it through the pandemic. Through Zoom is wonderful. There was amazing things that we could do, but nothing is like this, like where you can touch, hold, laugh, kiss, pray together, like, and in the same exact breath, there's like the idea where now we've created these relationships online, and you can now meet these people in real life. And I've had that experience, these profound experiences with like now women, mostly women, where it's like, oh my God, like I like liked you a lot online, and like you're so fucking cool, like, and then we like meet up, and like, and it's like 10x cooler, and it's so inspiring and so cool. So like the internet's a wonderful tool, but that's exactly what it is. It's a tool, and once you have it and you know how it works, like then you go and do the practice that it like allowed you to do, right? It's so cool.
It is. And I've noticed something too, because I've been in a chapter of going out more and meeting more people that I've known online and now in person. And I also have noticed that everyone is so much more beautiful in person.
Isn't that funny?
And
really? That's
in
awesome.
the world of like filters and all of this, like it was so, I just feel like when you're in person, because it's energy too that you're feeling. And it's just like, wow, like we're past the screen. Everyone is just so much more beautiful because you feel like their truth. You know, behind a screen,
it's all energy.
It is still energy, and you could feel that, but in person it comes to life, literally.
Well, right, and you get to like be your personal, unique self. And I think we get that gets a little bit washed on the internet, although everyone's trying to be something and show that, but you only have this one dimension to do that. So when you're in real life, you're like, oh, like you can feel their clothing, you see what they do, like it's like there's so much expression.
Multifaceted.
Right? It's so beautiful.
And
we're going there. This is what's happening. It's like all happening again, and it's so wonderful.
It is.
I'm so, I mean, there's a lot of turmoil in the world, I know that, but like what we're doing here right now, and in this like space is powerful.
It is.
And it's inspiring.
Yeah. It's a really big transitional time that I talk about all the time on the podcast or through meditations. And there is turmoil. There's a lot of energy on the planet right now.
Yeah, there always has been.
Yes. And I think with the challenges, it's brought in so much space for light and so much space for elevation. And it's an interesting time to be alive. I'm actually very grateful to be here during this time, although it is a challenging time.
Absolutely. And we also have to remember, and this is not to discount anything, and this is not about politics or anything like this, but like, you know, the world has always been turning in a sense the way that it has, and there's always been war, and there's always been gorgeous facets, and there's always been turmoil, and there's always been pain.
That's so true.
We've never had the ability to see every corner of the entire world like we do now. Our nervous systems as human beings were not designed to take on this. So, you know, we're feeling the increase in depression and things, anxiety, and all of the stuff that can be driven by the mind. There's no doubt it's not all related, right? I mean, it is. Yeah. So it's like we have to remember that. Yeah. And I think that's just another point of like really being conscious of not only like what you're looking at from physical, mental, spiritually, to like really what you're choosing to see and do and like be a part of, and like just the continuous of scrolling, because it's like it is impacting every moment of our brain. It is. And our soul. It's like it's crazy. So not to be ignorant, of course not. And we're in a moment too where we can potentially create change and donate and do things. Of course there's so many great like aspects that come out of social and being on these platforms, but it also is like it wasn't designed to be this way, I don't believe.
Yeah.
Our bodies weren't, at least.
Yeah.
Maybe technology was, but we're not.
A lot. Like everything we're consuming, the subconscious is holding. And that's a lot to clear. It's a lot.
It's a lot.
And that's why I think we see a lot of people doing the quote unquote the work, because it's a lot to hold, and there's a lot of work that has to go into it to clear it too, so that we can be a clear channel, so that we can find that quiet within ourselves and find going back to that intuition that some of us are aware of and have contact with, and some of us are still learning how to.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a constant process of dusting it off.
Yeah.
And again, like it's like I feel like sometimes these conversations you and I having at this moment, like somebody hears it and they're like, wait, I want to dust. I want to dust off a little bit, you know? Yeah. So because I think when you can just sit and you let your inner voice talk to you, if you can hear that, it's like it's telling us something. It's telling it potentially can be telling you what to do, how not to do, what not to do, you know, like things like that. Like it's maybe not too loud, but it's there. It's 100%. There. And we just need to like trust that like that inner wisdom is there, and it's always meant to be there. We are literally products of the earth and the sky, and it's all innate wisdom. We know what to do.
It's so true.
Yeah.
I have chills.
I know.
You mentioned before a little bit about your meditation journey, living in an ashram.
Oh my God.
Please share.
It's the best memories and the craziest memories too.
I'm sure I need to hear.
I kind of hit like a rock bottom, I think. Not really, you know, it wasn't that rock bottom, but it was for me, I think. And there was just like what do you do now? And it's like the power of just divine don't know. Open the internet and like, what do I do? And I was like, I think I'm going to go practice yoga and get certified, because I'll just become a yoga teacher. And if I don't like that, then I'll just live on the ashram. That's how I like saw it. Like Shivananda is one of the lineages where it's like they have ashrams all over the world. One of them is in Grass Valley, California, Northern California. And you know, it was like a couple grand to go and live and get your training, and you live the life, and you're in the garb and white and yellow, and you're eating all the yogic food, and you're practicing, and you're waking up to do sadhana at 5 a.m. and there's a woman with a bell being like chanting in your window.
Sounds like a dream.
I know.
I'm like, can I go?
It was a dream. Also, I met one of like my most favorite people, Jill, and of course, like there's no coincidence. I don't believe there are. And I also believe when you're at such a spiritual, like, call it vortex, call it place on the earth, call it what they've created energetically, like there are things that are going to happen, like regardless. And if you're open to it, then even more so. So I was very open to it. And I've also always liked yoga. I just was like, it would be cool to learn and just exercise my brain a bit more. So it was a full month, and it was practicing and training and reading scripture, and it was beautiful and amazing. And our Swami was Swami Sita, and we all get, you know, blessed with a yogic name, and then you get certified to do what? I don't know, teach, you know, you're like, what now? Where do I go? And like, I stayed a little bit. There was an incident that happened, and I mean, I might as well just go there, but it was a full moon, and it was like right before the finals and like the test that we had to take. There was like verbal and you had to teach, and it was like midday, and I basically what felt like burst an appendix. And there was a doctor who was also training this woman. She was from Germany. I remember things so clearly. And this woman, Sophia, and my friend Jill, I had this beautiful like log cabin right on the pond. We had like the best room. And I just remember like everything went black out, almost like a migraine. But I also couldn't move my body. Like I was like, something was very wrong. And it was like, call 911. At the ashram, by the way. Like we're in the middle of nowhere. Right. Granted, there is Grass Valley is not that far away, but like you're still tucked in to the earth. So long story short, turns out my IUD was in the wrong place.
Oh, wow.
And I was becoming pregnant, and the egg burst. So,
oh my goodness.
I know. It was wild. On a full moon in California while getting my teacher training. And I'm laughing because it's not funny, but I can look back now because I'm safe. It was scary. I mean, basically what was happening was my fallopian tube burst, and then I was bleeding out.
Oh my goodness.
Crazy. And I had the support of these women and like a wonderful doctor who just like took it out and went in surgery.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my God. It was so crazy. So like ever since then, this is now almost 11 years ago, I had one fallopian tube, and like, which is great. It's fine. It doesn't matter. And it was a very pivotal time in my life for so many reasons, but like I devoted my practice and like my being and my habits and my eating to that lineage of Shivananda, and just like how it's a very soft approach to life. Wow. Like beyond. And so I moved back to New York City. They still have a place on, I think 24th Street, 22nd, 21st, somebody, in Chelsea. And I didn't live there, but I worked there all the time and taught there all the time. I was basically a karma yogi, which they call it, and cleaned the toilets and did everything from kitchen to toilets to beds to, you know, and there's people that did live there and created like the most amazing connections. And I was just like a very softer version of myself after like what went down and the experience itself, and taught and then continued to teach until I dove a bit heavily into food and like left the yoga, but like it's always with me. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like it's like union. It's literally literally, and like you can't take that away. Yeah, it was so beautifully intense and imprintful. Like I'm so imprinted by it. And then when I listen to Krishna Das every single day. I chant, I burn, I move, and I sit. And if I don't, you know, I'm not the same person, right? So it's like, it's mandatory at this point. But without that experience, and again, this experience is a lake where you can really pull yourself out of life and drop in somewhere else that is so profoundly impactful. Not everybody has that experience opportunity, but even for 2 weeks or a week, I think different than a retreat, but somewhere where you're really just like, you are dropped in. And immersed, 11 years ago was a long time in a way where like there wasn't really cell phones. I also was like very much trying to be off the grid, and like I didn't care. I just wanted to kind of get weird.
Was this before your family?
Totally. Okay. 100%. My husband was still in the life of me. He actually like came and flew in right away when he got the word and like brought us a rabbit, and I like healed there and ended up finishing, of course, and getting my certification. But yeah, again, it's just like you never know. You just never know. And in that, it's like, not to be just like blasé, you never know. Like, but like to that point, you just never know what can happen to your body, which is just even more highlighting like why it's so important to take care of it.
It's so true.
And not just the body, the mind.
Yeah.
The mind is a monumental piece of the equation.
What was the catalyst that brought you back to food, or brought you really into food?
So I moved to Vermont and I opened a juice bar, and I was seeing and feeling the effects of raw food like intensely.
Tell me more details.
Well,
please.
I had some really, really terrible acne, and I was dealing with cystic acne, and
You have beautiful skin, by the way.
I appreciate that, and it's still an ongoing life process, but like I opened a small juice bar, and it was called Drink the Sun, and
I love that.
It was so fun.
I want to drink the sun.
Oh my God, babe, it was so amazing. It was so funny and so fun and so, again, just simple. I feel like for me, like things are just simple.
Yep.
And, you know, I was just like, I'm doing this. How is there not one here? Like, the story's just funny. And long story short, a woman hears that I want to do it. She's like, I have a space in our ice cream shop. I'm like, fuck yeah, next to the ice cream. Like, the moms get juice, the kids get ice cream. So I did it for like 2-3 months, and I saved a ton of money. Mind you, I was also working at a restaurant that was like the most lucrative place in Vermont. And we were just like, I was like all day there, crushing at the restaurant, all day there, crushing at the restaurant. And then I was like, and then it got kind of to a point where people were like, wait, let's make this bigger. Like, you're literally in a closet. Like, we need to make this bigger. Let's do a salad shop, smoothie, like a whole thing. And I was like, totally. Except I am not educated in this. And like, I'm not trying to like just read books. I want to go to school. And I'm kind of always been this transient like adventurer, and I was like, another opportunity to go learn and be somewhere else. So again, before family, this is in 2015. So I picked up and I moved to Arizona, and I went to school out there, Southwest Institute of Healing Arts, and I studied nutrition alongside culinary, and learned and got weird again. I've had pockets of getting really weird. I went raw, I went vegan, I shaved half my head.
Wow.
I was in it, but I was still me. Like, my best friends visited, like I met them in Sedona. They're like, oh, just like another version of you.
Yeah.
But like, it was always me.
Yeah.
It was just like quirky. I mean, when I go, you know?
And what was your transition? You're not vegan anymore. Right?
No, it wasn't. Right. So I dropped into this like desert atmosphere, which is so hot. I had a car with no air conditioning, and I was just like, again, like, I've got no one to answer to besides myself, and I only want to build myself up. So like, I felt the effects of juice, and I was just like, this is my path right now. Like, I've never felt or looked, my skin was insane, and my body just like shed. It was weird. It was just like, it was almost just like, it was just so good for my body at the time, and it felt so vibrant, and I had so much energy. And then, you know, my life changed, and I moved back east, and it's hard to maintain that. And for me, it's all about efficiency and sustainability. And I'm just like, I also love food, and if I'm going to teach this, I came back to work a beautiful job for 1 month to get who is my dear friend to lose some weight after postpartum. And I cooked all of her meals for 30 days, and I put her on like a very low impact yoga. We were also doing sprints, but like workout. So it was like food combined with wellness. And it just got me thinking that like we can't live in a box. I don't want to. Some people can. I'm not trying to. And I also can't teach from living in a box. Right. It's just not expansive. And I love all things. And I think there's a time and place for most. You know what I mean? And I think life should be joyous. And if you find joy in eating chicken or a steak sandwich or gluten every day, like, you should do that, you know?
Yeah.
Right. So the transition wasn't like this, like, I'm going back in it. I was just like, I was just like, whatever, I'll do what the fuck I want.
Yeah.
No one's telling me what to do.
Right.
Also, now that I felt like educated and empowered, you know, like right after school, you're like, I can do anything, and I am like, and I'll tell you everything about nutrition. You know, your brain's on fire.
Yes.
And yeah, and then I came back home, and I've been being a personal chef basically ever since. And, you know, of course, you take these new permutations through COVID, but teaching cooking classes and cooking courses are fun because you can reach so many people.
Do you still do that?
I do. Yeah. But I feel like with all of the experiences, I also traveled abroad before my time at the ashram for 2 years, learning about permaculture and how to like live off the grid. I think my whole vision was like, how do I grow my own food and like not have to communicate with people? Even though like that's obviously not what I want now, but like, I'm like, God forbid, like an apocalypse happens. Like that was always my crazy mindset. Wow. It's wild. I clearly don't have that anymore, but like I just love culture. I love experiencing new things. I love being able to jump on a plane and go wherever the fuck I want with like very little money in my pocket, because like adventure for me is it.
That's so exciting. I'm hungry and excited.
You're also like, where do I go? Shivananda ashram. You're like, do you have availability this week?
Literally. I mean, what
Anyways,
a
but it's
rich
fun.
experience you've had.
It's been really cool. Yeah, life is
And
funny.
now you have children. How many?
2.
2?
Yeah.
How
Life's
old are
good.
they?
Almost 2 and 4.
2 and 4. Oh,
Yeah,
so
they're
you're
cute.
busy.
Yeah,
You're busy with them too.
life's definitely rich.
Oh,
Yeah.
beautiful.
It's beautiful. What about
And
you?
what do you do for what do you do for children's food? Sorry, like 2 and 4.
Yeah,
What do they eat? I think
4.
listeners would like to hear this too.
Yeah, so for me, okay, so we're now in this space where my kids are waking up way too early. And that's my judgment. I think it's too early, okay? So 5 a.m. feels a little early for me. So in that time, you have to kind of create, what do you do to buy time and like make time? And like the TV is a great tool, but like it's also like, I don't know, there's this like act of play. And I feel like the act of play in the kitchen is so important. And it's like, to pass that down to our kids is so fun, and it's really cool to see. And my kids like to cook, I think, because they've always seen me in the kitchen, always, right? So, and regardless, there's just like the act of playing. Even you give them like a fake play kitchen, people want to be in it. It's fun. So yeah, tips for kids is like get their hands on stuff if you can.
Like food, actual food.
100%. Yeah, food. And even now our new thing is like making cookies in the morning, or like making something where I'm just experimenting. I'm just putting in flour and egg and like some honey and like whatever else, and to make something fun. So their hands are getting in it. They're eating the dough. Like even if you bought cookie dough, to like eat the dough, put it in the oven, watch it grow, time, bake. It's like there's numbers involved. There's a lot of cognitive stuff happening here. It's like really, really fun. And I think when you open up that portal a little bit for them, it becomes like, well, I'm going to try more stuff. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's kind of like anything. It's like once you tap into it, it becomes a little bit easier. But listen, like I'm not going to be annoying, but my kids are like eat fine. Like not always. It's like not like they're not like eating the rainbow every goddamn day, but like it's like putting some things in front of them to like play, try red peppers, green peppers. What's the difference? You taste the difference, cut them up differently. What shape is that? Like literally, if you can just drop into that play mind, it becomes more fun. And for me, like fun is like the definition of like whatever, they didn't eat it, I'm not gonna waste it, I'm gonna throw it in the smoothie or like whatever. Smoothies, again, I feel like that's like now an overkill, but like smoothies for kids are beyond, because you can throw spinach, you can throw the chlorella in there, you can throw the spirulina if you want. Like there's so many ways to get really good stuff in there. You just want to be careful, because you don't want to like overload the smoothie with too much stuff, because their digestive system is obviously still like fresh and young and like doesn't want to be on overdrive. And you know, my nanny came in today, grateful to have the most amazing nanny, and she brought like her homemade pumpkin and dal and like sauteed like stewed spinach, and my kids love it. Wow. So it's like, and again, like, but like pizza, great, chicken nuggets, fine. Like it's just like looking at the ingredients for me, and if I'm like feel fine about it, great, and if I don't feel fine about it, that's great too. You know what I mean? Like sometimes it's literally just like, in this moment in my life, like what's gonna make me feel better? And of course, like my kids be like full of nutrients and full, but like oftentimes it's just a little bit more easier than it has to be, you know? And I find that like different fruits are really fun. And again, I kind of just like play the same role of like, have you had this before? This is a weird looking fruit, like a dragon fruit or something like funky. It's like, you want to try it? This is like so bizarre. I'm like, what do you think your friends would think about this? Like, and it just becomes this funny dialogue.
It's almost like, you know, I was always like, don't play with your food.
Yeah,
it's like, no, actually play with your food.
Absolutely, 100%. Just like, baby, don't throw it all.
No, obviously. No, right. I'm saying in like a different way.
I know, isn't it
different
amazing?
Perspective, like for
well,
them
that is the new
play,
way. We have
curiosity.
Like you think about the 60s, 70s, like, I mean, like ingredients aside, it's just like, why are we being forced to eat our food? If my kid's not hungry, I'm not going to force him to eat. If he's asking for like cookies after dinner, like I'm always like, honey, if you want cookies, you got a little bit more space for that, you know, grilled cheese or like whatever. So there's that. But like I think it's so important to have this relationship and this conversation, but the relationship with food with children is so dire, because like we are creating, I mean, look at our society and like our years. It's like people with food guilt and food disorders and eating disorders.
I was just gonna
and all sorts of things. And it's like,
Yeah.
Oh my God, can we change that now? Honey, you don't want to eat, don't eat. If you only want the strawberries, you know, it's like sometimes you just got to like lean in a little bit softer.
So true.
You know?
I feel like that's your theme.
Me too.
Like just allowing it to be easier than maybe we've made it, and softer. And I think that's so important, really. And that's like the divine feminine.
Is it?
That energy. Yeah. Just like softening and allowing that flow, and not having to push, not having to make it any harder than it has to be.
Right.
And it's interesting. I was thinking about disordered eating. I actually struggled from an eating disorder, and I work with people who are seeking that balance where they don't have to, they're not thinking so much about what they're eating, when they're eating, but they're just eating because they're hungry and they're guided. Do you have any tips in that space? Someone developing their really a happier and more comfortable relationship with food.
It's such a sensitive topic. But I do think the more, just to piece you for a second, the more like you share about your experience, the more we normalize it. Because I think anyone in their now like 30s or late 30s probably experienced some sort of slight disorder of eating, or had seen a friend who was purging in the bathroom. I think it's so detailed and so layered because I have dealt with it in different ways, but it's like, it's almost like coming back to that practice of like acceptance for self, right? And it's so much easier said than done, but it's really like, I am worthy, I'm worthy of the food in front of me, I am worthy of the french fries and ketchup, I am worthy of my desires, because it's not wrong to desire this stuff. It's the attachment to like what happened after, right? Or like what could happen if I eat it. I mean, for me, it was my skin. It was never about weight. It was very much like, if I eat this, even I feel it sometimes today, like, and I can cut myself out of it because I have that practice and I have the strength to do that. But, you know, there's that, like, I think the only way, not the only, but one of the most profound ways to get like through that is the practice of like personal acceptance and understanding that like it is okay. And second piece is like, when I keep getting downloads of like this really beautiful like vegetable brothy soup with like white rice and like some sea salt and like a beautiful spoon and like a big white bowl and like just like almost like soup for the soul. And like, you know, when you start kind of like feeding yourself these really warm, grounding foods, especially in the winter, if you're in winter right now, like there's moments where your body kind of just like softens and is like allowed to be like, oh, like that felt really good and that tasted really good. And I believe, because I've been there again through experience, like when things feel good and settle good and your digestion feels like it's like, that was easy and like really warming and grounding and opening, like it kind of carves that path to wanting more of that, you know? And like, but it's not overnight. And it's also, there's the practice. Again, I feel like, again, we're so intertwined when it comes to body and mind and what the practices are when it comes to food and meditation. But like the idea that there's time takes time, and patience and forgiveness. Like, to forgive yourself, I believe, is like the first step in knowing that, like, where you can like move on and like be like, okay, like I can eat different foods or the foods that once triggered me, but it's the practice. And it's also like going to like therapy, if you were to have like a health coach or a food coach to help you through it, because having support. And I think like being held accountable, not in a way of like, did you do your 20 push-ups today? Because that can be riveting and rigid and like very triggering. But like, what'd you eat today? How did it feel? Almost keeping like a food journal. I think food journaling is really, really cool. And some people, I don't know, don't poo-poo it, but it's like underestimated. I think it actually is really helpful because, and again, not in the austere way of like, oh, look what I ate today to feel guilty about. Like actually being like, oh, like I'm so proud of myself for eating these things. It's like just flipping the script and like a little bit, you know what I mean?
And also I think that helps with overall awareness, like just bringing, sometimes we lack awareness. And when we're able to journal with ourselves, whether it be for our intentions, our deepest thoughts, or for food, it just allows us to almost have that objective view.
Totally. Yeah. Well, and to sit with yourself, right? Like back to the idea, if you're like on the couch for 20 minutes, like, are you okay? Like, how do you feel? Or can you be with yourself? Or do you want more time? I always do. Yeah. Right? Like,
yes, please.
But it's like, it's cool to just write. Like, it's really cool to write and be like, look at it and be like, yeah, I want more of that tomorrow. Or like, I didn't really feel like it today. And just get really, and again, these things that we say, I feel like there's so much of it, like just get honest, like forgive yourself. It's like, it's not just the sentence, it's the meaning, it's the action behind it. And if we can understand what that means and how to do it, then it's like, then that's how we change, right?
Yeah.
But also the other thing that keeps coming up is like having someone that you really trust to talk to. Mm-hmm. And a parent is wonderful. But I think somebody that is like a friend who won't ever judge you, not that your parents would necessarily, but someone that like loves you and can cheer you on. And if you can't hire a health coach or somebody like that, like having a cheerleader is really cool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I love that. And I feel like I still do that with my best friends, and it's like so powerful and so fun. Important. Yeah.
It's beautiful. Thank you.
Of course.
So now you're a private chef.
Yeah.
Where do you get your inspiration from for your meals? Like, is it constantly changing for your clients? Do they sometimes request like repeats? Do you like to keep it exciting?
Yeah, I think I kind of take my own advice. And I'm like, when I'm in the shop or in the market, I mean, for me, doing things like going to the market in Union Square or in Tribeca or Uptown, like, or in Brooklyn, there's markets basically every day of the week. And I think, it's redundant at this point, but to keep going back to that source of like knowing the farmer, like where did the wheat come from? Like looking at these fucking beautiful carrots, they're so gorgeous. Like the inside of the purple carrot, like that's inspiring to me. You know, being online is inspiring in a way because like, again, like some of my best friends like send funny things or like cool, like let's make that, or like, you know, like the viral, like there's something viral going around that's like the Taco Bell thing, but a healthier version. It's like things like this where I'm like, I'm not really that inspired. It's more just entertainment. It's not that I'm not inspired. It's just like, for me, and I hope this can resonate, and I hope also it inspires somebody, because it's like, for me, being in a safe, calm, clean kitchen with the medium of food and the colors and a beautiful knife and a cutting board and some really good music, that's it. And like, also, because food is not a one size fits all, it's all pending on like who I'm cooking for.
Yeah.
And it's like all energy. I mean, there's energetic field and energetic like desires and energetic like everything when it comes to how you're plating, how you're serving, who you're serving for, what you're going to make. And for me, it's like that energetic read.
I love that.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, so I think and I don't mean this in like an ego way, but I do believe I'm a little bit more tapped into that, because it's always been like rushing through my system. Yeah. Like it's like in my DNA to be with food since I was little. And so the inspiration actually comes from the person receiving it. Totally. You know what I mean? 100%. The same as like when you tap into like the person you're with. Listen, but that doesn't help if someone's like, great, well, I'm not ever serving anybody, I'm just serving myself. So like, how do I tap in? But that's it, right? It's like, well, tap in. How do we tap in?
Your mood. How do you feel?
Right.
Yeah.
But also there are like other ways that are like obvious, of where you're just like literally open up a cookbook, like what's his name, who I love so much, I'm drawing a blank on his name. Like you open his cookbook and it's like this most gorgeous view of like vegetables and ottolenghi, and like you just see this and you're like, I want that, I want to make that. And so you aspire to try to make something maybe look like that, potentially taste, I don't know, like. And I do think cookbooks are awesome because the visual there is cool. And there's something about holding the page, right? You're also like having this experience on your phone. Like, listen, like we're not supposed to be doing like stacking all these functions at the same time, right? Like it's like habit stacking is great. I get it. It makes sense. It's efficient in these days, especially if like you have a job to get done. But like to be creative, like we need to give our soul attention at that soul time. So having the phone out is not potentially the most like efficient, sustainable way to go, I don't think, because you kind of get lost there too. You kind of lose who you are in a way. You kind of lose your own voice.
Makes
you know what I
perfect sense.
mean?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there's so
Do you
many
like looking at
distractions.
cookbooks?
I do. I have a few.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, listen, like, it's just like, also like, I also feel like we don't read enough.
It's true.
Right now with like the digital
true.
age. So it's like, just like holding it. My friend Jess Krux, she's got an amazing book out called Just Salads, or I think it's Just Salads. And it's just like this gorgeous.
It's Just Salads, isn't it?
I think it's called
I'm
Just
literally
Salad.
going to buy it. I love salads.
She's
even though
incredible.
I'm supposed to eat more warming foods, but
well, they can be warm salads.
I love.
We
That's
can
true.
warm
That
salads.
is true.
Yeah,
that is
we
true.
can do like, I love warm salad. That's like my jam.
That is true.
But and they're also just great visuals. And she's a wonderful chef.
I'm going to check that out.
Yeah.
I can't thank you enough. This was such a nice conversation and so inspiring. You're inspiring me too, because I've definitely felt a lack of creativity and just connection, or really finding the time to have that connection.
It's the time, right? It's the time. I think the time is a top block.
Yeah.
You need to like crack down, because everything else underneath there.
I know, it's so true.
Yeah.
And there's always time for what we make a priority. Like I'm never that person to say I don't have time. I know I do. I just have to find it.
Totally.
So I can't thank you enough
Well, thank you so much. And I appreciate you and all your meditations. Like, I just want to say quickly, like when I like you got onto Melissa's app, and like then I saw you, and then it was like the same exact hour that like you pinged me. It was so weird.
Oh, that's so funny. I love that.
It was so weird though, Erica.
Oh, I love that.
I was like, whoa.
Energy moves really quick.
Really quick. Anyways, I love your meditations.
Right?
You're incredible.
That it's like nothing, like you said earlier, nothing is a coincidence. No. Energy's so real. And the more we get intuitive with ourselves and opening ourselves up to our intuition, the more we have these moments of like, nothing's a coincidence.
I know. And you're like, oh, magic is real.
Yeah, magic is real.
Love you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I adore you. I love you too. And I'm so happy that you were here and I got to meet you.
I know. Thanks.
And thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope that you enjoyed that. As I said, the connection, the energy, like it was just there. Jess is such a special person. And I had the pleasure of meeting her and sitting down with her in real life in our new podcast studio that you have probably, if you're tuning in on YouTube, you can see and check out. But she was so inspiring, and I'm so grateful that we got to have this conversation together. So thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope to see you next time. May the longtime sun shine upon you. Sat Nam.